The past week has been a dangerous time for the United States as it reached the national debt ceiling of $31 trillion. Lawmakers from both political parties are currently in disagreement over how to proceed, with the potential outcome being that the government will be unable to pay its bills. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has spoken out about the need for drastic measures to be taken, but implementing them will not be easy, and Yellen warned that a potential default on the country's debts could lead to a self-imposed calamity for the global economy. Despite these concerns, billionaire investor and founder of Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio, sees things differently. In a LinkedIn post, he called the debt ceiling a farce and stated that there is no real debt limit. He went on to say, "It's a farce that works like a bunch of alcoholics who write laws to enforce drinking limits. And when a limit is reached, they do a farcical negotiation that temporarily eliminates the limit, which allows them to have the next drinking bang until they reach the next limit at which time they go through the next farcical negotiation and continue to binge." Dalio also pointed out that this is the 79th time since 1960 that the debt ceiling has been reached and subsequently raised or suspended. He questioned whether it's good or bad that the U.S. can easily get around its debt despite initially putting itself in a difficult position. He argued that the financial piping of the government works much like any other organization except for two things. The government can print its own money and take money from one group of people to give it to another through the debt market. He wrote, "Because money and debt are not limited. Those who make the decisions on how much to spend on what don't look at how much money they have to spend and then prioritize what they should spend it on." In 2013, disagreements over the debt limit led to a government shutdown, with Democrats and Republicans failing to reach a consensus. This resulted in billions of dollars in losses for the nation and a downgrade by credit rating agencies and a drop in consumer confidence. Currently, President Joe Biden and Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are at odds over how much to raise the current debt ceiling, with Biden wanting a no-strings-attached deal and McCarthy arguing that families and businesses have to live within a budget. To delay the impact of reaching the debt ceiling, Treasury Secretary Yellen has implemented extraordinary measures, such as holding back investments on retirement plans for federal employees and suspending the sale of certain securities. These measures will last until the summer, after which lawmakers will have to come up with a new plan. Ray Dalio stepped down from his leadership role at Bridgewater Associates last October, but continues to write commentary on the economy, on the economance, and geopolitics. In the past, he has written about how the U.S. and China were dangerously close to a full-blown nuclear war, and spoken about how the American economy was suffering from multiple sources of economic pain. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content in the future.